Hopefully, I'm coming in now. For some reason, it had reset my mic settings. So sound now good, good. I'll wait until I see some comments roll through that say yes. Showing on my end that sounds coming through now. So hopefully, okay, working good. Okay, well, what you all missed was hello, welcome to another Professional Genealogist Reacts live stream here with me, Garrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger. It's Friday as usual for live streams. Kind of a rainy day here on and off. But good to hear my mic's working now. We'll do our typical of going through saying all the hellos and the comments, then jump into the questions for those who are new to the stream or um, just need a refresher. On this stream, I'm going to be answering a lot of DNA test and genealogy questions, mostly through the subreddit r/genie vlogger, but I will be answering questions also through chat. So if you have questions, put them in chat. I don't guarantee that I will answer all questions that come into chat just because partially I just can't see all of them. But if anyone does one of those super chats or anything, I always guarantee I will answer those questions. Seems like we got a pretty light crowd today. So I imagine if questions do come through, I'll be able to see them pretty easily. But either way, I've got some questions that I've found on Reddit that I think will be somewhat interesting. A lot of recent ones. But all right, before I jump into that, let's go through all of the hellos as usual. We have Anna Tommaso coming in from Western New York. Welcome. We have Rebel with a Shih Tzu. Hello from Florida. Thank you for joining. We have John Tyner, one of our WikiTree fans in the chat. Hello from Ireland. Welcome, John. Rosa Bruslers, hello from the Netherlands. Huhachet, hello. Hui, hope you're doing well. Hoodnaven, Sharon, hello from Dutchess County, New York. Welcome, Sharon. We've got Sue Potter. Hi, everyone. I'm watching from Nottinghamshire, UK. All right, wonderful to have you. We have David Weiss. Hola, amigos. Hola, David. ¿Cómo está? Eric Sheridan, hello from Kansas City, Missouri. Wonderful to have you, Eric. We've got Tasha, hello from Minnesota. And then, all right, let me jump through all the sound. Yes, we can hear you. And there we go. Hello, Karma, coming in from beautiful Nebraska. We have Alexandra from Koblenz, Germany. Daniel, evening. Welcome. Karma, I'm actually on time this time. Yeah, you are. So welcome, everybody. Kind of a light crowd. I feel like I usually end up spending a lot more time doing that. But I guess we'll just kind of go ahead and jump on into answering the questions. So let me make sure I have it looking decent. Make it as large as possible, as readable as possible for everybody. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so this will be the first question I answer, although as usual, I did the top of the Genie Vlogger posts and do all time, and then basically I just look for what's at the top. And a lot of times it'll be some of the more recent stuff. Just because when it's more recent and it gets that many views, they always seem to put it more at the top. I think time of the post is counted into that. But for those who have questions on Reddit, or if you just go onto the subreddit and you see a question that you would really like to see answered in one of these, upvote it, because upvoting it means that it gets higher up in there. So that's kind of how I choose it. So I figured I'd just mention that very quickly. Yeah, we've had some storms for almost about a week. It was crazy. Yeah, we've had a few storms coming through here in North Carolina too. We just had one real quick one roll through, which made me happy I got my dogs out in time before that came rolling through. But yeah, lots going on. And then Stig, greetings from Oslo, Norway, one of our Scandinavian representatives. So wonderful to have you. I see the numbers slowly going up. So the first one that we'll be talking about today. Oh yeah, let's see. I gotta go and do comments. Is this one, which was only submitted 17 days ago, and Genie Vlogger, blah blah blah. Sorry, I'm getting a little lost here. Okay, Hello, I am Spanish from Catalonia, and I show you the results of my heritage. I'm surprised that there's so much Sardinian in it. And then we have the results. We have Iberian 31%, a lot of Catalonian, um, then Ceuta, España, Francia y Argelia, Este de España y Soraceta de Francia. Not 100% sure. I know Catalonia, but I'm not quite sure what the other areas. Francia and Argelia. And then I guess, yeah, I don't know. Okay, and then we have Sardinian, 25.3%, Escandinavo, 21.6%, Europe Oriental, 12.4%, Italiano, 8.6%, De Media Oriente, 1.1%. And so the main question is, I'm surprised that there's so much Sardinian in it. And one of the reasons why I thought it'd be great to answer this question first is because there's really not much for me to say that's not already said in the comments. So, comment from MRJB, which if you all don't know, this is Matt, who is one of the mod admins on the channel. Honestly, I think he was the first person that I had to do that. Not sure if he's here now, but he's often answering stuff as well in these chats, and he has a lot of good stuff to say about this stuff. So I assume you already know, but there is a historical connection between the two regions, Kingdom of Aragon. But having said that, it's plausible you just have a grandparent who came from Sardinia. Do you know where all your grandparents came from? So just to kind of explain that a bit more, basically he's saying that there's this historical connection between these two areas. So it makes sense that it could just be from that historical connection that the DNA ends up getting read as both. But at the same time, considering that it could also be representing a grandparent, because if you're from the amount of DNA you get from a grandparent would be about 25%. And so I'm going to put my little banner up here with all those percentages. And so with 25% Sardinian, 25.3%, it's very possible that it's not necessarily the historical thing, but more of that he actually has a Sardinian grandparent, and just that's what's happening. What is that not doing? Okay. And so then, thank you for your answer. Yes, I know that there are connections between the Crown of Aragon and Sardinia. I also know from Catalonia they sent soldiers to conquer Sardinia, etc., etc., etc. Basically, he just kind of mentioned some possibilities of, well, maybe it's coming from here, maybe it's coming from there. And Matt responded, yeah, that's another possible connection. Not sure about Portugal and Sardinia, though. That seems more unusual. It is possible that it's indeed a misread, but that's difficult to prove either way. Yeah, thankfully they're going to be updating it sometime in June. Yeah, this was, you can test other companies, see if they're putting other stuff there. And then, yes, I did test on other pages and they are different. And then he has a link here to an image of Ancestry. And so the breakdown is honestly, with Ancestry here on the left, a lot of French, a big portion of Spanish and the Portuguese. And then we've got a big mixture of a whole lot of other stuff that's kind of, I think, fairly typical with Iberian Ancestry. And then here we're getting a lot of other stuff. The only question is do both of these other companies actually have Sardinian readings or something else? So, not going to go too in depth into this, just because, with the admixture questions, I think it's ones that, we get these all the time. But especially because Matt kind of had pretty straightforward answers that kind of explained it all pretty quickly. Figured it easy to do. So this question was viewed. Can't type today. Boom, boom, ba-boom. So, all right, we got one question answered. Sorry. Okay. Stephen Mulsap, my dog, how you doing? I'm doing good. Hope you're doing well, Stephen. Daniel, not another my heritage ethnicity estimate question. I know. They always come in. They always come in, but it is what it is. While Sardinia used to be part of the Crown Kingdom of Aragon for a substantial length of time, similarly, southern Italy, though for less overall time. Yeah, so it's certainly, I mean, the history definitely it plays a part into it, but I think the main point to hit on is with these admixtures, there's so many possible hypotheses with it that, you kind of got to consider them all and then slowly use evidence to figure out which is the most likely. Um, Rosa, interesting. Does this happen a lot that when you test with a different company, you suddenly get different places or a different mix? Oh, yeah, all the time. All the time. Very common thing I talk about on here. For one, you're dealing with a difference of how the companies define each region they're defining. So, with some companies, when you look at the list of the populations they define, then you look at the list of the other ones, they'll have stuff that, they're defining something very sub-regionally that the other ones just lump into a big, larger region reading. And then they'll define things very differently. Some sites will have, British as something separate from Irish and something separate from Scottish, and then others you'll get, British and or it kind of mixes. I never remember what the actual readings they do are for each company because, in all honesty, I say this all the time: the admixture stuff is so minimally useful for genealogy and genetic genealogy that it's not something that I put a lot of stock in memorizing, okay, what companies have these, what companies have these. It's just kind of more of a general of like, some companies do have better, or there are reasons to test at certain companies for better reasons, depending on what you're looking for or your ancestry or whatever. If you're looking for matches that are still in Europe, MyHeritage is your best way to go. But if you're looking for American or Canadian or British, Irish, Scottish matches or something like that, Ancestry may be the best way to go. And, there's just a lot of variation with it. But yeah, that's actually, it's not necessarily all a fun thing, but it is kind of more of a fun thing. So the admixture can be helpful in genetic genealogy because it can give you hints of either things in your family tree that might be off. If you have a family tree where all you know is Jewish ancestry and you get your results back and it's 50% Ashkenazi Jewish and then 50% European, that's a big tell that, one of your parents isn't actually Jewish if you thought they were. So it can indicate things, it can give hints of things, but it is not anything that can really be used for conclusive reasoning sort of thing. So I like to always mention the genealogical proof standard, which talks about using exhaustive research and all that stuff. And that's kind of where this falls flat is there's nothing, there's so many possibilities with each reading. So there is a use to it, but it's minimal. So, sorry, I meant to click this one. Camo Jan, greetings from Minnesota. Welcome, Camo. Always good to have you. Daniel said, I'd say it's more of an indicative, suggestive thing. Yeah, it can indicate things, but it can also cause confusion because there's a lot of difficulty to it. So sometimes, like this Sardinian, you could just get that reading in one of the companies and not any of the other companies, and it's hard to say which way to go because the other companies that aren't picking it up, maybe they just don't have enough information to pick it up well enough, and then they're wrong. So you don't want to just be like, well, more of the companies said no, so it can't be there. So, on top of that, you're also dealing with things like Northwestern European ancestry, or regional ancestry, I guess would be a better way to put it. But Northwestern Europe is what I'll use as an example, where basically you have a large swath of geography that there's a lot of correlation between the populations because of flow, with people just traveling back and forth and having kids with different people from all over those areas. And so it causes these large regions. So Northwestern Europe, we're talking, the UK, we're talking France and Germany and the Low Countries, although not quite as much France and Germany, but they kind of lump in there Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, a little bit of Finland too. Even kind of basically, it's just there's so much population flow in those areas that when you get an admixture reading, you could get it all over the place, but it's so all over the place, or it's so hard to decipher that you can't really glean too much off of it. I don't know. I'm starting to ramble a little bit. So I'm going to jump into the next question. So, let's see. Yeah, this was one. We had a similar one last time. Like this, basically a last name origin one, and I didn't fully read this, so yeah, we're just gonna kind of all see it all together. All right. My family name is Skibby, and before the 1900s, the family name was Skibby with an E. I've found many dubious definitions online, but haven't found anything that would necessarily make sense. My Skibby ancestors immigrated from East Prussia and spoke German. Allegedly, my father said he went to Germany in the early 90s and looked into a phone book and saw that there were many Skibbies, but despite that, there is not information about where it comes from. The one answer I've seen online is that it comes from the Serbian word skiba, which means something along the lines of a sliced piece of bread, or a name given to a poor person. Please let me know your theories or anything that may help. Thank you. Now, I won't have really any theories on this, but I may have some suggestions on things they can do to possibly just at least understand that ancestry a bit better. But all right, let's see. Why Barenth says, German with East Prussian family name here. I never heard of the name Skibby before. That does not necessarily mean it is not German in origin. However, finding plenty of Skibbies in a phone book is either questionable or an incredible coincidence. Yeah. I ran the name through one of the most popular phone books in Germany and got roughly 360 entries nationwide, which includes both private landline numbers as well as companies, etc. If you want to try yourself, search for Das or Leech. Okay. German Wikipedia also lists several Skibbies. I also ran through a quick search of your name in Gedbas. Interesting. I'm not familiar with that. I guess this is kind of a German. Cool. If anyone's familiar with this this site, comments in the chat. I do see Daniel saying Skibby, a town in the municipality of Fredrikstad, Zealand, Denmark. Interesting. All right. Of course, there were Skibbies from different places, including U.S. and East Prussia. East Prussia does not seem to be the main hub, though, but rather an assortment of places is in Pomerania and also a place called Beek. Now, the reason I say Beek is because I saw the Netherlands, and I know sometimes when EE, it's pronounced like Beek instead of Beek. So I don't know which way it is, but all right. Now, Beek is or was the name of several places. For instance, there's still one little town in the Netherlands that has that name, but I'd rather suggest a place that used to be called Beek and is in modern-day Poland, but formerly, back when it was called Beek, was West Prussia. Today is called Kaliska Kostirski. Etymologically, I can't tell you much about your name other than that it is not too different in structure to mine. So it can be possibly from East Prussia. However, the same may apply to different places in former Germany. I have no experience with Serbian, so I hope somebody else can help there. That's really interesting. A lot of interesting information in here. But I mean, you can really get in depth with some of these surname questions. All right, that definitely makes sense. I grew up thinking the family was purely German, but after hearing they were from East Prussia, I did not know what to think of them. Only recently did my family do 23andMe and saw that my father has 18% Polish DNA, despite not having any known Polish ancestors. The Polish that it connected to the most is Podlaski Voivodeship, Poland, that led me to assume that the majority of my DNA connections through the Skibbies would be found in present-day Poland. My family tree for the Skibbies only goes back to 1792 to my fourth great grandfather. It's still pretty good, though. The men appear to be born in East Prussia, but they all marry a German girl until the 1920s. This all led me to wonder how long my ancestors have been in Prussia and what they were doing, as no one married a Prussian girl, which I feel like would be common at the time and place. Interesting. Now, the one suggestion I would have, and I'm kind of happy with some of what they mentioned here because it plays into that, is with DNA testing, if this person is either born male or their father's still alive or they have brothers, to do Y-DNA testing through family tree DNA. Since they have 23andMe, and saw that my father, so assuming the father's tested 23andMe, you can at least for now take a look at the haplogroup and see, what does the haplogroup show? Granted, haplogroups are going to be thousands upon thousands of years, so you're probably not going to get much of a difference between trying to figure out German or West Prussia or something more like that. So doing a full Y-DNA test from family tree DNA, even if it's just the most basic one, which I think, what is that now? Y37. It goes Y37. They took out Y67, which is kind of a shame, but it is what it is. Then it goes Y111, and then it goes into the big Ys, I think, from there, unless there's one in between. But basically, each one of those tests, you're kind of testing more DNA. So you don't necessarily have to do the, biggest one, the most expensive one. Although if you do that, then you will be better off. Now, the main thing I'm sure you're asking now is, well, what are the benefits to doing the more expensive Y chromosome DNA tests? And the reason is because you get better granularity of the results. So when you do these Y-DNA tests on family tree DNA, it will show you your matches through your Y-DNA, meaning other people that have done the Y chromosome DNA test on family tree DNA. It will show how many of those markers that you've tested you're matching. So when it says Y37, that means 37 STR markers, short tandem repeats. I'm not going to go too much into that. But with STR markers, if you're doing 37, that's kind of the base amount. It used to be 11. So you may even see results of people from like way back in the data or the early days of the database. They're still in there that are only testing at the 11. But when you test at 37, if you match someone at a 0 genetic distance, what that means is that you and that person share all 37 tested STRs. And that thus means that you and this person share a patrilineal ancestor sometime in the past couple thousand years, probably. I don't remember exactly the timeline of, what it is, but, it probably, the ancestor you share could be, a grandparent, or could be as far back as, someone, a male ancestor born 2,000 years ago. But then as you test more markers, the genetic distances become more granular. They become more specific in that range, or I guess the range lessens. So if you do a Y111 and you match someone there with a purely, 0 genetic distance, then that means that you and that person share a patrilineal ancestor sometime in the past, 50 years to the past, maybe it's like 500 years, or I'd have to look at the charts to remember exactly what it is. But so the more you start testing like that, or the higher the number of the test, the better idea of how far back each match, the range of where you're matching them actually is. Then once you get into the big Y tests, which are the really expensive ones, that's where they also start to test what are known as SNP markers. So before they're testing STRs, short tandem repeats, with the others, they're testing SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. I'm not going to go into any of the differences necessarily right now, but when you do SNP testing with your Y chromosome tests, along with the STR markers, because when you do those big tests, they do the STRs and they're adding SNPs in. But you start to get a even better idea of how you and these other people connect. And you also get to then be put into what's known as the phylogenetic tree. And a phylogenetic tree. Here, I'm actually phylogenetic tree here. Just Google definition. A phylogenetic tree, also known as a phylogeny or phylogeny. I don't know how to. Whatever, is a diagram that depicts the lines of evolutionary descent of different species, organisms, or genes from a common ancestor. So when you look at phylogenetic trees, like, I guess here this is something about plant meiosis. I was actually looking for one that's like animals or whatever. Okay, here we go. So like here we have dinosaurs, so a phylogenetic tree of dinosaurs. And so basically, they've been able to figure out through, all the different studies and testing and whatnot, that this is kind of like a dinosaur family tree in a sense. And so with Y DNA testing, if you do big Y and you get into the phylogenetic tree, which there are multiple phylogenetic trees available, then you can see where you sit exactly with that. So I'm not in the family tree DNA phylogenetic tree. I've done Y67 through family tree DNA. Probably should do one for the big Y through them. But I did do whole genome sequencing, which gives all of your Y DNA testing too. And I uploaded mine to Y full. So this is mine right here. This is where I fall within the tree. And so the way that it works, it's just like a family tree. So me and this person, we have a shared ancestor where our shared ancestor, TMRCA, two most recent common ancestor, 200 years before present. So if we hover over it, basically it says that our most recent common ancestor could be an ancestor that was born 75 years ago. So, like a grandparent or great grandparent, or as far back as 600 years ago. But the estimate is about 200 years before present. So if you see that 95% right underneath it, I believe that's what they're saying, is basically like there's a 95% certainty that it'd be 200 years before present. And then the group is formed that far back. So we are from this ancestor. And then this ancestor is technically like a sibling in a sense to this ancestor. And they come from this. And this is siblings in a sense to these, and they come from this. And then each one you go up, it's kind of like going up a different ancestor. So as you go up it, the family tree expands because there's more testers, more descendants. And so this is the phylogenetic tree. And it goes all the way back to Y chromosomal Adam. And this is how we get a good idea of population connection. So like I come from Jewish ancestry. On my father's side, it's Ashkenazi Jewish. And so you can see with a lot of these testers here that are from this similar branch as mine, they're Jewish. So even here we have Libyan, but they speak Judeo-Arabic, indicating they're probably Jewish. And then everybody else they're mostly Jewish and living in Eastern European countries. And then we just keep going back and this tree starts expanding and we start to see, oh, wow, now we're starting to get into other areas in North Africa and the Middle East and even kind of Central Asia. And so we're just literally just going back and back and back, and we're getting further back into the ancestors. And now we can see, now we've gotten back to where it's like a huge, huge variation. But as you go through, you still kind of see a general sort of, idea of each branch. And basically, we go all the way back here. This person that we all descend from, this is all patrilineally. So this is each one of these testers, fathers, like literally that pure line of fathers only, going back to this ancestor who most likely 95% chance that they lived about 13,800 years before present. And we all descend from them, but it goes back and back and back until you start getting into, now here we're getting into the general haplogroups. So these are, if you do 23andMe, these are going to be where you're being placed in the family tree. And so this is a good reason to explain, or this is a good place to explain why testing family tree DNA Y tests, the Y chromosome test, versus just doing 23andMe and getting your haplogroup makes such a difference. Because with your haplogroup here, like JM102, this is what I got through 23andMe 23andMe, because I've done a 23andMe test. So I saw my haplogroup, and they didn't call it JM102. I forgot. I think they, what did they call it? Because there's some different numberings that different sites use, and some use older versions and newer versions. But it basically this, I think it was J2 something. Either way, that is 15,600 years before present, that 95% chance that that's how far back this shared ancestor of everyone who has JM102 has. And if you watch like the Mossaman video about the haplogroup maps and stuff, this is where we're getting into where those maps are defining is the, haplogroups, things that are formed 10, 15, 20,000 years ago. So I'm from JM102, which comes from J2. We'll let that load. And then J2 is coming from J. And you can see here, J split, into regular J, J1, and J2. And we can see that the haplogroup J, the most recent common ancestor of pretty much everyone from it, probably lived about 31,600 years ago. But it goes all the way up. And once we get home, we get Y chromosomal atom. And so we can see down here, this is where I am, J2. So this is the human Y phylogenetic tree. And that's where I am in the tree, in a sense. So this is why doing the bigger and bigger testing is better. And then if you do that through Family Tree DNA, you can actually upload to YFull from Family Tree DNA. It does cost money. 45, that's not pounds. What is that? 45, whatever that is. But and it'll tell you how to do it. And then you can also do mitochondrial DNA if you've done mitochondrial DNA testing. So for people like myself who've done whole genome sequence testing, which does it all. Oh, it's euros. Okay, thanks, Daniel. Yeah. But for people that do like whole genome sequencing, or if you've done both Y and mitochondrial, you can upload to YFull. And the nice thing about YFull is they do actually give you Y DNA matches, which is really great because there's not a lot of places that do that. And that gives the ability for whole genome sequence testers or people testing at very third-party sites, in a sense, that do Y chromosome testing, they can still match with others. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. So we'll put that in there. Reviewed. Let me check chat. I saw some that came through that I didn't. Matt Potter, isn't it then best to do the cheapest and upgrade to a more granular Y-DNA if you have a close enough match? That's the approach I took with my grandpa. Chances are you won't have close matches. Yes, this is a very common approach that people take with Y-DNA testing because it gets very expensive to do the bigger tests. And especially when there's sales where, the Y37 test, I don't know how cheap it's gotten, but I feel like I've seen it for under $100. So if you do a Y37 test and then you get no good matches, like your best match has like a genetic distance of 3 or 4, doing the bigger Y-DNA test, the only thing it gives you then is really giving you access to the phylogenetic tree. Beyond that, it will give a little bit more granularity with those matches, but if you have a match that's a genetic distance of 3 at 37 markers, then once you get up to 111, that 3 could increase a lot. Granted, it could just stay 3, but even then, it's you're still going to be looking at matches that they're going to be possibly outside of the genealogically useful window, basically outside of the realm of figuring it out using actual paper trail records and things like that. I see Alexandra doing a super chat, so I'll go ahead and do that one. My father has a big Y match with the same haplogroup, but he doesn't match him at the lowest levels, 37, 67, 111. Is it a close match? Now, this is where it starts to get outside of my expertise necessarily. I've done a lot of Y-DNA testing and I've worked on a lot of them, but I've never ran across something like this, so I wouldn't know the exact answer. But a very interesting question that they're not match. It doesn't match him at the lowest levels, 37, 67, 111, but matching on SNPs. So yeah, that's interesting. That's one that I might pass along to some of my buddies who are really the ones that know Y-DNA really in depth. So yeah, we'll see. Interesting. And thank you for the €5 super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Alexandra. You've helped support the channel a lot. You really have. Jumping back, Ray Sanderson, you should do an all Caribbean episode and showcase the DNA results and genealogy of people of Caribbean descent. Yeah, I mean that would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of connections to the Caribbean, a lot of the different islands, including Jamaica, and yeah, I don't know. That's a possibility. If I do that, I already know some people to talk to. Although I think part of it might be swayed a bit with me, talking. I'd probably talk a lot about the Jewish ancestry in the Caribbean. So, but that'd be interesting. Daniel M, do you have any non-Jewish ancestry, Jarrett? The most recent non-Jewish ancestry that I know of is my most recent royal ancestor, Don Juan Alonso Pimentel. So let's see if I can bring it up. So here is, I forgot exactly what he is. I'm trying to figure out what he is to me right now. I'm pulling it up. But this is the most recent ancestor that I know of that was not Jewish. Otherwise, every ancestor that I know is Jewish. Or every ancestor more recent than him I know is Jewish, and then there are a few other lines I have that trace in royal ancestry. Let's see if I can find. Okay, I'm gonna have to do this the other way. All right, sorry, just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. All right, well, actually, I guess I can kind of do this through here. Oh, no, maybe I can't. So this is so my relation to Juan Alonso Pimentel is through my Enriquez Pimentel line. So myself, my mother, my grandfather, great-grandfather, second great-grandfather, his mother, who was born Reina Robles, and then her mother, who was born Rachel Enriquez Pimentel, to her father, Joseph Enriquez Pimentel. And as we keep going up, that's where we find ourselves to the Juan Alonso Pimentel. And let's see, I think this is there. So David Enriquez Pimentel here, we don't know who his parents are truly. We have the information. You can see I added him back 2010, over 14 years ago. But we have a lot of information about him. And we talk about, but the reason we know that he's a grandson of Juan Alonso Pimentel is because of this. This is the Pimentel Carta of Privilege. This is, I feel like I talked about this on a recent stream as well. But basically, this was a document sent to David's son, Isaac Enriquez Pimentel, who is my 8th great-grandfather. And this document basically says that his father David was a grandson of Juan Alonso Pimentel, and because of this fact, the court grants them permission to use the coat of arms of Pimentel. And this document was handed down through one of the lines of the family, not my line. It was one of the lines that ended up staying in Amsterdam. But it's a really, really interesting document. But this is my most recent known non-Jewish ancestor. So like all of these Enriquez Pimentels, they were part of the Sephardic Jewish community of Amsterdam, the Portuguese Jewish community of Amsterdam. So Juan Alonso Pimentel, the 5th Duke of Benavente, my 11th great-grandfather. So there you go. Evening, Rob. Goedenavond. Wonderful to have you here as always. Charlie, we've got one of our admins in chat. Evening, Charlie. Good to have you. Goedenavond vanuit Groningen. Ben ik het laat? Okay, I have to figure out what's lot. Am I my Dutch? Ben ik te laat. Am I too late? Aha, no, you're not. Okay. I'm still learning. You know, those questions are so difficult because they're just so different than English. That's the hardest ones when it's like flipping around. Like, you spreekt Netherlands. You speak Dutch, as opposed to, spreek je Netherlands versus je spreekt Netherlands, right? It's like you speak Dutch versus do you speak Dutch? But it's just flipping the words. So it's so weird in English to try to get that. Adam says, once you have big Y results, STR matches are less relevant, i.e. more distant. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way it is. Although, I mean, you can utilize both to get an idea of things, but also considering the fact that with the big Y results, if the other person didn't do big Y testing, you have to use the lower ones. Doom Waffle, I've taken the big Y700 and have no matches at that level, but at 111 markers, I have a number of matches from a different family. I matched no one with my surname or its variants. And that's one of the things that can happen depending on your ancestry and the way that ancestry adopted surnames. That could be very telling. So people like myself that come from Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry, it's very rare to be able to do a Y-DNA test and find a significant amount of people with your same surname, because surnames for most Ashkenazi Jews were adopted in the late 1700s into the early 1800s, largely around the Napoleon conquest sort of time. But one interesting thing about family tree DNA is using the block tree. I find that tool can sometimes be helpful in noticing surnames for specific branches of matches. So if you haven't looked at the block tree for your Y-DNA results, I'd suggest checking that out. It might be interesting to see, and maybe, I don't know if all those other people have a variety of surnames or if it's one, a couple of common surnames or something. The most recent common ancestor for us is about 1,750 years. Oh, is about 1750, not that years. I checked one match's family tree in the 1820 and 1840 census and found 3 of his ancestors living 5 houses down from my ancestry. Each of my matches also share 14, 14, 16, 6. Okay. Starting to think an NPE is likely. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly how you figure that sort of stuff out. And if they're 5 houses down, that certainly makes sense. That certainly, that things are adding up. So yeah, one of you, somebody's father either wasn't their father, or maybe you just haven't gotten back that far. Maybe, I don't know. Thank you for your great job. I vote for that episode with Caribbean descents. Yeah, I'll definitely have that that on the list of things to do. I've kind of gotten away from doing a lot of topical stuff outside of my YouTuber family trees, but I've also kind of been very slow on releasing stuff on the main channel. So far, I've not found any royal connection. It's peasants all the way down. Yeah. Certified mutt. Yeah, my surname is super common and also probably a complete fiction. Yeah, my surname of Ross, I always find it funny that I get tons of people that are like, I know a Ross, I wonder if you're cousin. And it's like, that's the name that's been adopted by so many people across a variety of stuff. And my Ross name was originally Rosenberg, which technically I should actually be Goldberg. A lot of people don't realize, but my Y DNA, I should be Jarrett Goldenberg. So, okay, let's I guess let's kind of get back to testing. Did I put the flare in? Yeah, I did. Okay. How long have I been going so far? Oh, not even an hour. Okay. Boop, boop. Interesting. Are New Brunswick documents disappearing 29 days ago? Endogamous population. This is part of a much bigger project I am working on. My current problem is that New Brunswick document seems to be disappearing. I've been researching my Poulin line from New Brunswick for many years now. I'm currently going through everything over again to make sure I have confirmed all the information from actual records and not just from trees. So in Ancestry, where I usually do my stuff, records that were once available are not anymore. And even on other databases, Quebec centric, they seem to no longer exist. Same goes for MyHeritage. Also, to history buffs out there, was there an even in New Brunswick where a great many records from 1750 to 1850 were destroyed or something after the Acadian deportation? I have an entire family unit, husband, wife, and about a dozen children from then, where I simply cannot find anything other than census records. No birth, no marriages, no deaths, so I cannot confirm anything. Is there something New Brunswick doesn't want me to know? And then, yeah, this is what I was going to say. The licensing agreements for records can change from time to time, so availability on the licensing platforms can change. In general, it's a good idea to check the relevant sections of Family Search Wiki for alternative options and primary repositories. And I talk about the Family Search Wiki all the time. It is a great place to go. And I'm glad they linked both of the main links that you should go to. One, the actual New Brunswick Wiki. So it kind of just gives you a general breakdown. And this is like you can almost think of it like the portal in a sense to all of the other things New Brunswick. The other thing that they link to, which I just noticed that they have it linked to like a translated page or something, is the online genealogy records for New Brunswick, which you can get to from the previous page. So all you have to do is look for the blue box, New Brunswick. But then you get this full breakdown and you can see the records broken into various options. Then it'll be range with the earliest date range sequentially. And then it'll tell you where is it held and what is there. So there's an index and images, but then there's also, where else can you find it? So it'll give you, the same stuff sometimes, but at multiple sites. So maybe it's at Ancestry or maybe Family Search or MyHeritage. And if you see the $sign, it means paid. And then you can see as I'm hovering over stuff in here, it pops up and kind of tells you, okay, this is, how you can access it or whatever. So yeah, so that's great answer. And Buxus who I definitely recognize that name. I feel like they have a different name in YouTube or something. And then this person says, Sashano, New Brunswick has provincial archives that you can dig through, but it's incomplete. A lot of their official documents start in the 1880s. Prior to that, it was the church that held documents, which mostly still exists in the churches. If you're looking for Akkadian ancestry, look for Genealogy Dictionary of Akkadian Families by Stephen A. White. This book is considered pretty definitive. If you're looking for online resources, there's several out of Quebec, assuming you can read French, and even an Akkadian genealogy wiki that can help. I think the only other thing that I would add to this is that this is a great example of why you should always save the documents you find in your own records or whatever, because you won't always have access. And sometimes you'll think you have, it's easy to access. I know it's here and there, whatever. And you just never know when all of a sudden, the company might turn belly up. You just can't access those records, or, you just never know what's going to happen. So it's always a good idea, both to just, keep the records, because you never know if they're going to be able to, or they're going to go away. So, all right. So, all right, let's see. Daniel, my paternal line ends in a mysterious figure who is illegitimate, and the surname doesn't seem to belong to the mother either, though I've not found birth documentation for either. So I've been tempted by Y chromosome testing. Yeah. Download entire catalogs when you can. Yeah, sometimes that's not a bad idea either. Daniel M., I found people using the surname of a great-grandparent, but as far as I could find, not used by any grandparent or parent. Interesting. Surnames were always freely adopted in Portugal. Even today, the law gives tons of freedom in that regard. I've seen that in my husband's tree. The grandmother came from a rich, influential family, so the son went by that name too, even on his marriage certificate. Yeah, very interesting. 30% Jewish DNA. What does this mean, anyone, please? An admixture question. Everyone put your emojis in the chat for how you feel about admixture questions. I mean, it could mean a few things. It could mean that you might have a grandparent who was fully Jewish. Could mean that you have a couple of ancestors that are maybe a bit more distant who are fully Jewish. Depending on what your ancestry may be. Although 30% is kind of high either way, but depending on your ancestry, that could explain why maybe you are getting Jewish where you might not expect, but it would be not surprising. There's a lot of possibilities, but I mean, it's kind of similar to the one I answered before at the beginning, where they had that Sardinian. It's possible that there was that historic connection with where they came from in Catalonia, but and Aragon, but the at the same time, it could have been that it came from a grandparent from Sardinia. So, you could have a Jewish grandparent, or I don't know. So, the first thing to do would be look at all your grandparents and look at all of their parents and see, can you find anything that would indicate that, that's where the Jewish is from. Okay. I already flared it, didn't I? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. All right. Oh yeah, this one, necessary parking. Was this the one that I was saying I wasn't gonna answer last week, and then I did because he was in chat? Yeah, because this is Callum. I think I answered this last week. Yeah, I think I did. All right. I don't want to over whatever. All right, my Ancestry DNA results. Oh yeah, that's the another ethnicity admixture question. Did I answer this one too? All right, we'll do this one in case I didn't answer it. But all right, my wife, 100% Egyptian, but having 100% European matches. My wife, who is 100% Egyptian, born and raised in Egypt, took recently a DNA test on my heritage and scored 15% South European, Greek, and Italian, the rest being all Arab, African, etc. Although she has not many matches, many of them are apparently 100% European, coming from Czech Republic, Scandinavia, Russians, etc. She doesn't even share ethnicities with them. How is it possible she has any genetic connections to them? Wrong matches? Question mark. I mean, yeah. All right. Well, let's see what the comments say. Ethnical estimations are just that, estimations. Each company has its own algorithm, and they can all interpret the DNA composition in different ways. My grandmother got 0% Finnish and Nordic ancestry on her results, and yet she has tons of distant Finnish relatives. And after some emails, it became clear that she does descend from a Finnish guy that made a lot of business in the south of Europe. The estimations are just one component to take into consideration. Yes, definitely. Great point. They deleted something. Whatever. All right. I feel like I answered this one already. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah. What is the level of match, though? How many centimorgans? The closest fully European match, actually, your second closest match shares 25.08 centimorgans. 3 shared segments, and biggest segment is 10 centimorgans. She's about 77% Northwestern European, 12%. Yeah. Yeah, I would look at the percent. I would look at that percentage in centimorgans than the actual ethnicities. The ethnicities are just a rough guess based on the genes. The test also don't read every single genetic marker we have. It's a general reading. Look at the relationships themselves. If there's around 25 centimorgans, does this mean they are estimated to be a distant cousin? If so, it's quite possible that it's a misread, or quite possibly someone migrated from Egypt a long time ago, perhaps to the Ottoman Empire. Great point. Just because she doesn't show any Arab or North African DNA doesn't mean it's not there. My sister would come up showing that she has no German English DNA. Her test told us she's 99.1% Irish Scottish and 0.9% Middle Eastern. I'm 85.9% Irish Scottish, some Northwestern European, and then Balkan and Greek Southern European. Does that mean my sister and I aren't related? Nope. Just means the test didn't pick up on any Southern European DNA markers of my sister. We're 100% matches for sisters. One aside to put there too, sisters only share about 50% of their DNA. So it's also the possibility that one sister inherits a lot of one ancestry, the other sister inherits none. So if she has distant cousins in Europe, she probably has distant cousins in Europe. Yeah, so I think basically we have a few possibilities going on here, and seeing that the best match is 25.08%. Or 25.08 centimorgans or 0.4% DNA, that's really, really low. And they do get this 15% South European, Greek, Italian, which certainly makes sense with them being Egyptian and just the Mediterranean and all of that. The connection with the Middle East and Eastern Europe and everything, it makes a lot of sense. But there's a few possibilities with how the connection is. It could be that someone went from Europe to Egypt and then she descends from that and thus has some of this European ancestry, or as was mentioned down here, which I'm actually going to give them some up votes for these answers. That basically that somebody from Egypt went to Europe years and years ago, and then their descendants are the people that she's matching. Now, I will say 25 centimorgans, I mean, you could be matching a fourth cousin or a fifth cousin or something. So, it certainly could be a more recent match in a sense, but it could also be much more distant. So we always like to use DNA Painter. So 25 centimorgans, and look at all of these possibilities. I mean, second cousin once removed, a third cousin, but then it could also be way more distant too. I mean, it says eighth cousin here, but that could probably get even more distant. I mean, ninth or 10th cousin, or, so the thing that I would also say with this, Well, I guess with Egypt, yeah. The thing that I was going to say is that with MyHeritage, their database has the largest database of European testers, people still living in Europe, and most especially outside of the English speaking world of Europe, because that's kind of the English speaking world of Europe mostly is testing Ancestry and 23andMe and Family Tree DNA, whereas for the rest of Europe, I find most of them in MyHeritage, especially Eastern Europe and things like that. So that makes sense. I'd wonder after this year, how long ago was this? Is it going to show me? No, it's not going to show. Okay, whatever. Basically, I do wonder if maybe they've gotten more matches, because if their second best match, like second closest match overall is only 25 centimorgans, that's really, really bad. But it kind of makes sense with Egypt, because I imagine there's not a lot of Egyptians taking DNA tests, especially, DNA tests through like MyHeritage or something. So yeah, I did see. Okay, this one, yeah. I'm half Coptic Egyptian with my other half consisting English, German, and Polish ancestry. These are ethnicities that I've validated to the best of my ability to be accurate. Egyptian genealogy through records online is basically non-existent. Excuse me. My ethnicities are 50.5% Italian, 11.7% North and Western Europe, 6.5% Baltic, 1.8% Greek, 20.5% Middle Eastern, 7.2% North African, and 1.8% Nigerian. None of my other tests list Italian, Greek, or Nigerian as ethnicity hits for me. For me, I have found MyHeritage to be completely inaccurate for Egyptian ancestry. I've found that 23andMe has been the most accurate regarding detection of Egyptian ancestry, as it even labeled my Middle Eastern ethnicity as Coptic Egyptian, as opposed to simply Egyptian or Middle Eastern. So very, very interesting thing to note about the admixtures and all that with it. So yeah, all right. I think we'll call that one reviewed. And let's see. Okay. A friend of mine, his uncle, still living in Germany, took his wife's surname as she was the sole heir to a brewery, and the name is on the route iron arch of the property. That's pretty cool. Talking about, I guess I must have been right when I started answering this question. Yeah. Oh no, not MyHeritage again. I take MyHeritage's results with a grain of salt. I think we're all really curious what's going to happen in June with their new results. I'm hopeful it's good. Yeah, grain the size of a house, sure. Yeah. Yeah, let's hope the update of MyHeritage in June will be the start to actually update the same amount as the other companies. That may be asking a lot. I think one of my biggest hopes with this release from them will be that they also release a white paper with their new results. Camo Jan, MyHeritage says I'm 75% Scandinavian, while the other companies say around 45%. My mom is 0 Scandinavian, so we know MyHeritage is way off. Yeah. And then we've got Brace Gardner. Hello, Brace. Welcome to the stream. All right, so we've been answering some questions. This is an old one. They even deleted. Let's see, what do they even say? Okay, yeah. So another. Okay, maybe I will. So basically, my mother is Arab from Saudi Arabia. My dad is Turkish from Eastern Turkey. However, after doing the MyHeritage test, I got 25% Mizrahi Jewish, 23% Middle Eastern, 5% Turkish. The only surprise comes from the Mizrahi Jewish, which I think is from my dad's side. While with my mother's, I'm more confident that there is where the majority of Middle Eastern comes from, as well as North African, Iberian, Nigerian, and very surprisingly, Maasai come from. After doing some research, I found out that Mizrahi Jews are just Arabs who are located from Muslim Arabs, who were isolated from Muslim Arabs, and that's why MyHeritage claims to be able to discern them from other Arabs. thing is known in my family that I know of is Jewish. I can only confidently go back to my great grandpa. No, I don't think that's right. I don't know Mizrahi Jewish ancestry or history well enough, but I don't think they're just, they were just Arabs isolated from other Arabs and they just became Jewish. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. All right. So my only theory is that one line of my paternal grandfathers going back into the early 1800s was Jewish, who later converted, never told anyone. I think that the Ashkenazi, Balkan, and South Asian also come from my dad's side. But again, I do not know anyone from those areas. The genetic group I got was spot on, as that's where the bulk of my dad's side comes from. Yeah, all right. I'm not going to get too much into this question. I think, it is a big question with my heritage about their Jewish readings because they try to be the most granular with those readings, most especially trying to suss out Mizrahi Jewish and Sephardi Jewish and some other Jewish readings. Whereas from my understanding of the research and everything, there's too much difficulty to do that with a high level of confidence, which is one of the reasons why it's like sad that they don't release a white paper, which the white paper is an explanation of how they're coming to those results, as well as the statistical analysis of how good those results were. So, all right, I'm just going to throw a reviewed on there sort of thing. This is old and they deleted it, so I'm not going to really know anyway. All right. Rob, updates I do not care for. I do not get to see that anyway, just the matches. All right. I hope my heritage bring back the match filters by ethnicity and genetic groups. Didn't they bring that back? Or did they set it behind one of the paywalls or something? I thought they brought it back. My great-grandfather, his name Peter Folsom, have a quarter Choctaw on my ancestry tree. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about the Choctaw. We have another deleted one, and it's probably just all my parents, grandparents, great-grandparents are Algerians, North Africa. I took the DNA test on 23andMe and then uploaded the results. Why are they so different? Why I have a high percentage of Spanish when no one in my family is Spanish? I can already answer that. North Africa, Spain, strong connection. Spain, Iberia, the Umayyad Caliphate, just the Strait of Gibraltar, and then just it's basically same old thing as always, and even more. It all makes sense. All of this makes 100% sense. So I'm even going to flare that as review. So many of the admixture questions all the time. I think that's one of the problems with a lot of the older questions too, is it was just when I first started doing this, it was like every single person that had this, the question of that ethnicity admixture, they all went and posted. Creole ancestry. I'm digging in my family tree and bumped into something interesting about possibly having Creole ancestors. My dad's mom's side is from East Texas. At first, an ancestry DNA test only showed connections to East Texas and Oklahoma, but then I tried my heritage and it threw in 2 Louisiana Creole groups at a medium confident level. There's some side eye about how accurate my heritage is with ethnicity stuff. Ethnicity, but not the genetic groups. Oh, yeah, but their genetic group seems solid. How funny. All right, so here's the thing. Some of my grandpa's family came from Alabama, Georgia to Texas, either during or after slavery. There's also a branch from Northwest Louisiana, Webster Parish, that ended up in Texas. It makes me wonder if there's a hidden Creole ancestor somewhere. Could it be an error, or am I missing a piece of my family puzzle? Now, this would be something perfect for Danielle Romero from NYTN, because a lot of her stuff is all about this. Now, this was posted on Ancestry DNA, so I want to see what the comments there say. This I'm just kind of scanning it. I don't really see anything that's like popping out as like. I have a cluster of close matches range from 100 centimorgans to 75 centimorgans. The link to my paternal grandpa's side with their whole family being in South Louisiana, but I can't find any common ancestors between the cluster of shared matches. But even then, I'd expect to receive a Creole ancestry DNA community if there was a Creole ancestor somewhere down the line. Well, I guess a big question here is, does Ancestry do Creole groups? Or I guess, yeah, Ancestry calls them genetic communities. So, this is one thing that a lot of people don't think about when they're trying to compare tests is, well, what is each test actually defining or actually, putting in there? Because, it's, if you're confused why you're not getting it on one site versus the other, and then you look and you see, oh, well, the one site's not even defining that, then that makes sense. I'm trying to find a list of their genetic communities right now. Oh, I think they have them in here. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm on this page. So they do early Louisiana African and Creole Americans. And then they also have South and Central Louisiana African and Creole Americans. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely that question. So, yeah, interesting. I think this is one of those ones where, it could go either way. You don't know which site is right and which site is wrong. That's the hard part with this is, it could be that Ancestry just for whatever reason is not picking up on your having so much trouble talking today, like having all these tics. Sorry. So just, looking at each site separately, it can cause this confusion because which site's right, which one's wrong. And if Ancestry is just having difficulty picking it up, it's hard to tell if that's the case versus is MyHeritage just overextending and coming to a conclusion that's wrong. So I think it could go either way. What you could do is, you talked about having that cluster of matches from Louisiana, but I would also look for, can you find a lot of matches that have Creole ancestry specifically? Because being from Louisiana and having Creole ancestry isn't always the same. It's not exactly the same thing. You could have Louisiana ancestry and have no Creole ancestry. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that's helpful. Real quick, this question was reviewed very quickly. Yeah, whatever. I'll put that there. Hopefully that's helpful. I don't know. Definitely check out Daniel Romero's channel, NYTN. So like New York, Tennessee. Is that actually, what does NYTN stand for? I don't even know what that stands for. All right, let's check chat. Daniel, I just think MyHeritage doesn't separate their groups well. Every ethnicity estimate bleeds into neighboring historically connected regions. Interesting, yeah, which then what I just said, it could just be Louisiana ancestry, not necessarily Creole, which I feel like with Creole, you're dealing with such an endogamous population that at the very least, you should see a really long list of DNA matches. And it's not like you'll see them at the top, but at the very least, like if you go to like really far down, that you should start seeing a lot of Creole ancestry. It's kind of, it might not necessarily always be the case that way, but I feel like when I find a lot of people where they have connections to endogamous groups where they weren't always exactly expecting it or something, you see a lot of matches from that endogamous group at very low levels if it's a very distant sort of connection or something like that, but not always. Yeah, Bryce, my mom has 3% Eastern Europe and Russia. John Tyner, I have 3% Jewish. And Rob Hogan Esch, I have 1% Malta. Isn't that special? Well, isn't that special? All right, how long have I been going? I've been going for a little over an hour. So, stretchy. Scott Gibson, I've done a few DNA tests, and they can have such different results between each test. I almost don't even take them serious anymore. And that's a sad thing, because the DNA matches and everything about the DNA test outside of the percentages are amazing and do a lot. Like, I mean, you get DNA matches and you can find out who's your cousins and then uncover your ancestors and all that. But you get a lot of people where their focus is just the percentages, because part of it is because that's what the companies advertise more than anything. That's what they market. And then you get a lot of people where they look at the different DNA results, and each company is going to be different. They're all defining it differently. It's like, it'd be like going to 3 separate painters to have them paint your portrait. They're all going to be a portrait of you, but they're all going to look kind of different. And that's what the difference with these companies are. And so, it's like the one part that's the least genealogically useful part of these DNA tests, these admixture percentages, are pushed so hard, and then the good stuff of these DNA tests get lumped into this idea of, I don't even take these DNA tests serious anymore, when it's like, I take them super seriously, because I've helped people uncover their parents that they never knew about because they were adopted or didn't know about it. And I've helped solve crimes, and I've helped identify unknown human remains using these DNA tests, these exact DNA tests right here that we're talking about. So it's always kind of funny seeing that mentality of like, because of the percentages, I can't even take them serious anymore. I don't know if that's necessarily what you're saying, Scott, but I know that's like it's just, it's something that a lot of people push, and it's just, I don't know. My admixture says that I'm 100% don't care. Yeah. My dad has 2% Ashkenazi Jewish, and I have 1% Ashkenazi Jewish, according to MyHeritage. And I think MyHeritage is the one that's known for giving the most small percentages of Jewish to like just a lot of people. But yeah, Dan, that's a good point. Most people are just shopping for identities, and that's one of the reasons why I talked against a lot of people doing a lot of the GEDmatch calculators, the admixture calculators. They certainly can have a place of helpfulness in the tool belt of genetic genealogy, but a lot of people would go into the genetic or the GEDmatch ethnicity calculators and run, there's like 30 of them, and you run your DNA through each single one, you get different results, sometimes slightly different, sometimes highly different, but it then becomes this game of choose your own ancestry, because people are basically they're looking for the one that fits what they're trying to prove best, So Rob Hogan, is it Hogan or Hogan? I always think it's Hogan, isn't it? All right, either way, I'm waiting for close matches for my wife's father's side to make a tree for that side, South Indian Catholic. Interesting. Scott, oh yes, that's very reliable as far as that part goes. I do take that part serious. Yeah, I feel like I've seen you in my streams before, so I didn't think you're just but yeah, no, it's like it is that kind of mentality though, of like, it's that the admixtures just get pushed so much, it creates this shadow over all the good stuff. Rob, yes. Yeah. Dankjewel. All right. Well, honestly, I don't think I'm going to go too much longer today. I'll keep chatting with everybody, but I think I'm gonna call it a day on answering the questions on Reddit. But before I end that part, just say, if you do see questions on there that you really want me to answer, like if any of these questions appear, especially that I'm like kind of like not answering just yet, if you like, oh man, that would be a great one, go and upvote it. And yeah, get on there. Get on there. So all right, we'll close that and we'll just chat until the end. So yeah, I'd rather not play choose your own adventure with my adventures. It never ends well. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And those are the people that do that too, the kind of shopping for identities. As soon as they find that thing that fits their narrative, they go with that. And I have had some experiences where I've, talked to people that, mean well and stuff. And, like friends of friends sort of situations or things like that, or like at parties or, stuff. And I'm talking to someone and they're like, oh yeah, I did my DNA and blah, blah. And they go into it and they start telling me about stuff. And then I start to kind of say, oh, well, actually, this and this. And I start to kind of like unravel this whole thing they had in their head. And some people do not take it well. Some people do not take it well. So you're getting better. Thank you. Thank you. Dank you. Dank you. Get those ancestral languages back. Yeah. I've been working hard on getting that Dutch, and I'm working at it. I need to get some of my cousins in Amsterdam to start doing some WhatsApp video calls with me and speak Dutch. So get it down. Eric, do you have anyone review your research to help avoid confirmation bias? All the time. One of the reasons why I try to involve a lot of genealogists too in my videos is because I want to show that doing genealogy really isn't a solo sport as much as a lot of people think. Obviously, there's a lot of solo research to genealogy, but it's a lot of people working together. It's a lot of expertises and things like that. But on top of that, like you're mentioning, avoiding confirmation bias. And it's because of this that I started doing reactions. So when I did my first reactions on the main channel, which was probably like 3 or 4 years ago now, the reason I did it was because I had this big video I'd done. I think I'd even edited it, and it was a pretty good video. It was about how I had figured out how Bam Margera and Ryan Dunn from Jackass were distant cousins. Basically I had gone on to a few different sites and kind of pieced together different family trees, and I'd gone through each generation, kind of just checking each one. And I decided, before I put it out, I sent it to a couple of other genealogists to just say, hey, can you take a look through and just tell me, does it look right to you? And one of the people came back to me and said, actually, it looks like this one connection here, I think that's wrong because of this and this. And it looks like that, that's a mess up because 2 people were lumped into one person sort of thing. And so looked into it and she was right. And it completely unraveled the entire video. And I had 2 choices. I had a few choices. One, put the video out with the caveat in there at the end of, oh, and by the way, I figured out that it's not true, which kind of is stupid. Like, hey, I proved this, but actually I'm wrong. So it's like, I don't know. Or not put anything out, which I didn't want to because it's YouTube. You got to get stuff out, or try to come up with something quick. And I've loved watching a lot of reactions over the years. I was really into that React channel and the Fine Brothers stuff and all of that. I've been watching YouTube since 2005. I've been on for a long time. So it popped into my head of doing DNA reactions. And so I even figured, you know what, let me do this. It's probably easy to record sort of thing, which I then found out it was a little bit harder than I thought. Basically it was just like, let me try that. And so because I had sent that video to another genealogist who proved to me that it was wrong, I decided to do reactions. And yeah, so, Yes, I do. I do send them to genealogists all the time. For all of my YouTuber family tree series, I have multiple genealogists that I work with to help go through things and review it as we're researching. So, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's best to try to work with a team on that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, all right. Bryce, my aunt ordered and my grandpa Ancestry DNA kits. Okay, you ordered her and my grandpa Ancestry DNA kits. That'll be good. That'll be good. Having your grandpa do a DNA test is so useful. So useful. I'm gonna try to pronounce Airy Rude Boy. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I'm sorry. I uploaded my DNA test results from different companies on a YouTube channel called Araboy. If you want to review or react to results, I'm the only Eritrean who has done multiple tests on YouTube. Interesting. Yeah. If you go to either my Reddit or my Discord, I have a place where you can post links for stuff people want me to react to. So you can post it there and be able to put it in my list. So cool. So Eritrean results, which I think I've only done one reaction to Eritrean results. And I think the thing that I remember was that it was a lot of Ethiopian Jewish, but I think they don't really define Ethiopia as Ethiopia. They just defined it as Ethiopian Jewish, that being on my heritage. Is where that person tested. So yeah. All right. Coming up on that hour and a half. You can tell I'm a little tired. Ugh. Give a yawn and a stretch. Tip my toe to jacuzzi, baby. Yeah. Well, I guess not too many more comments coming through, so I might end this in a couple of minutes. But I guess while I do that, definitely check out the Discord. I haven't mentioned it much here, but for those unfamiliar, I have a Discord server with a good amount of people. We got a couple 300 something people in there. A lot of people helping each other with genealogy, DNA, a lot of different stuff, as well as just kind of a fun place for genealogists to chat and all of that. And then as well, definitely go onto the Reddit if you do have questions that I didn't answer here. What? So the genoplot data is fake. The description doesn't say that. I'm not familiar with genoplot. I don't know what genoplot. The premier site for admixture calculators. Yeah, I've never heard of genoplot. Let's see. ISOGG has a thing. Genoplot is a multi-purpose consumer genomics platform providing ancestry, genealogy, and genetics related technologies to the genomics enthusiast community. It commits to deliver traditional analytical approaches from the academic to consumer genomic analysis interface in a variety of novel, statistically guided, and informative tests. Starting in 2020, Ancestry inference tools are made available, and a commitment Genoplot stated. This is so weird. ISOGG is usually really hardcore about who they let edit, and this reads so much like just an ad. Oh, I just realized you all can't even see what I'm reading. I get so used to having that stuff there. Yeah, so Genoplot is a multi-purpose blah, blah, blah. Of course, they're this is just it's like an ad. It's not really saying anything about what they do. This is a straight up ad. Blog posts and articles. This is ISOGD. It's so weird. I don't even know if a lot of people realize that, maybe it was just me, but I feel like I've talked to other genealogists who have found very similarly that they've applied to be able to edit the ISOGG wiki, and weren't able to. So I kind of find that funny that there's this genoplot thing that's, I mean, it's just an like, I mean, this is yeah. Ah, okay, thanks for letting me know about that. Yeah. I'm learning German and French too. Oh, two of my family's lost languages. Yeah, I found your channel through your Eritrean and Ethiopian DNA results videos. That's right. I did. One was Eritrean and I had an Ethiopian DNA results. I don't think my heritage is good for Africans. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if there is one site that gives the best, or I don't want to say best, the most granular African ancestry breakdowns, it would be Living DNA. And it's kind of something that they boast too. That basically they, you get your test at Living DNA, we give you the best. There we go. Living DNA. So they give you like the most granular. Yeah, 72 African subregions. Do they have the? Yeah, there. Oh, they used to on the page have it where you could actually like they showed the lists. But I mean, you can see. I mean, you can just see from the photo. Let's see. African ancestry. Is this just the same page? Same page. Yeah. They don't show it to you, but I mean, you can kind of see from that map, I mean, if you look over here, I mean, look at that Horn of Africa. I mean, looks a little bit more sub-regionally broken down over here, doesn't it? I mean, I think they even try to go by like tribes and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, not getting just one big lump of Eastern Africa or Kenya or, something like that. Dan Edwards, I still wish Ancestry would bring back DNA circles. I found them helpful. I agree. I thought that was such a weird thing that they decided to put through lines in as like a replacement when I felt like they were kind of separate tools. Like DNA circles was much more about clustering, whereas through lines is a much more specific guess. So yeah, I agree. DNA. I wish they brought DNA circles back. So Bryce cannot wait for the next update on Ancestry. Yeah, when I don't know when their next one is. I wonder if I can't remember if they announced anything at Rootstack. Everybody knows my heritage is coming up in June though. Adam Scott, quick question. Are there any reliable genealogical sites to help with old military records? I'm tracking one of my ancestors who was in several campaigns in the Army. Any recommendations? Well, there's a lot of questions to this because it'll vary. For one, what war were they fighting, or what time period were they in the military? Obviously, several campaigns. They were probably doing some sort of active duty stuff and not just like on base or something like that. So that's the first question. That can vary, but assuming that you're also talking about American ancestry, because that's the other question is, are you talking America? Are you talking elsewhere? But if you're talking like United States military, Fold 3 is kind of the first go-to that people go to. Yeah. Excuse me. But there's a few other places that you'll definitely want to look into. Actually, you know what? I think I need to look into it. Yeah, the VA. You can get a lot of information from them, and you get that stuff through the National Archives. So, like a great example. National Archives Veteran Service Records. So, obviously it's going to vary depending on the war. They do have guidelines in there, using military records and what you can find and all of that. With World War II, it's that's a funny one because there was a lot of stuff destroyed, unfortunately, a lot of records destroyed. But at the very least, you can get a lot of information from here. Something else to consider would be the Library of Congress, most especially, if a group that they were fighting with. So, like an example, I was doing research on the 77th Division in World War I, and there's all sorts of stuff that you can find here. Now, obviously, it's going to vary. You're going to get a lot of stuff that maybe isn't what you're actually looking for. But just, searching through the Library of Congress, that's a good place to look. I'm not sure if you made a video about this, but I think a good video idea would be around if Jewish people are white. Their racial identity has always been questioned in America. I actually don't do the whole racial thing, especially black or white. Like one of the things I talk about all the time is I hate those terms because there's just too much political stuff behind it. They're terms that were used originally because they were just trying to define slaves versus non-slaves in the US. So I wouldn't do it. Especially because I don't think that there would be a straightforward answer in any sort of way. There are a lot of different creators who've tried to do the whole, where does this population group come from? Like, I know Ancestral Brew had a series about that, and I think Masa Man does a lot of that stuff. But yeah, the whole racial thing, I always try to stay away from that because I feel like that's something that really isn't as much a part of genealogy and family history, unless you're in U.S. history sort of thing, So like, I don't know. Not really my thing. Thank you for the suggestion, though. My dad told me his dude of the family were Black Dutch. Have you heard this term before? Yeah, I've heard of the term Black Dutch before. And I don't know I don't know the full history on it. I know in terms of the connection to the Jewish community in Amsterdam and the Netherlands that, in Dutch colonies, there were a lot of slaves. And those slaves in Dutch colonies, so like Suriname is a great example. But there were a lot of other areas too. But there were a lot of Sephardic Jews who were in these communities who had slaves. And I know that sometimes these slaves would end up coming back to the Netherlands as free people, and they would, become citizens and have children and all of that. And those children, so I don't know the full on history about that. I thought about doing videos on the topic of slaves in Dutch colonies, but I don't know super whole lot about it. But one interesting side note, which I think will be something I'd like to see, kind of what the Dutch watchers think, is the whole thing with Zwarte Piet. So basically, it's kind of like a tradition. Zwarte just means black. Zwart, black. Zwarte Piet, black. Piet. And basically, it was this character where they're like completely covered black, and I forgot exactly what the story is, but it's like it traces way back. But they're not black because of their skin. The reason why they're black is because they're like a chimney sweep and they're covered in soot. But like apparently, I guess in recent times, the whole concept of blackface has collided with the whole Zwarte Piet thing. And so I think that there's like a lot of people in the Netherlands who are like, some people that are like, yeah, get rid of Zwarte Piet. Others who are like, this is our Dutch heritage and it has absolutely nothing to do with racial stuff in any way. It's, he's covered in soot. Like, it just, would be blackface by Western or the U.S. standards in the sense, but it's not blackface and what that, yeah. So just an interesting aside. So I'm going to kind of keep my eye out for any of my Dutchies saying anything about Zwarte Piet, because I had one of my cousins from Amsterdam kind of tell me a lot about that, and how honestly he was like, kind of annoyed about it, because he was like, this is something that dates back well before the whole blackface thing in the U.S. Adam Scott, okay, because I'm struggling a little with British Army records. Our records can be quite faded and hard to read, and Ancestry doesn't have enough metal records. Yeah, when it comes to British Army records, I wouldn't quite know. Ancestry and all that's a great starting place, like family, the typical sites. But I would start looking in to see if there's something possibly similar to the US with like a veteran sort of thing. So if, I don't know if there's, in the US, we have the Veterans Association, the VA. And so, you just look up Veterans Association records or something like that. So if there's something similar, yeah, you can try that. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Go to the Genoplot page. I don't like going to third-party sites, and yeah, they all say they go deep. We go deeper into your ancestry than anybody else. We tell you things nobody else can tell you. But I come at this from a genealogical standpoint, so I'm not trying to have someone tell me some sort of, oh, well, you seem to have this sort of ancestry, and you seem to have this sort of ancestry. I'm more of I want to know their names. I want to know their stories. I want to know what happened. I don't care about a generalized this or that, maybe hundreds of years ago. I want to know the actual stories. So these Genoplot sites or genome links or, ancestral finds or whatever, all these different sites that are all these third-party sites, they don't have any genealogical usefulness to them. And yeah, so, I don't know. I don't like them. I don't, trust them. And, I'll wait to see. But yeah, this Genoplot place just sounds like another one of these third-party sites just trying to, make use of the DNA world. Is the MyHeritage update in regards to the ethnicity results? I haven't gotten an update in years. Yes. So June, they're going to be doing new ethnicity results. They've been working on a ton of stuff at their company. And basically they used Roots Tech earlier this year, Roots Tech being the largest genealogy conference in the world, to announce a lot of these things. Carmigao, years ago, before really getting into genealogy and ancestry DNA, my maternal aunt told me that we had white Prussian. Interesting. Scott, I've never found any actual Dutch connections either, so I've been confused about that. Neek says chimney black is modern invention. Rob, slavery in Amsterdam was forbidden by law. Any slave that came on land in the harbor would be a free man. There was a small community in Amsterdam and can be found in the Undertrouw. So the marriage bond records. Just to talk about what he's talking about, the Undertrouw records. So the Undertrouw register. And this has been a marriage bond. So basically, this was kind of a public announcement that these people are planning to get married. I think this is what you're talking about, Rob. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine there'd be something else that you're talking about. But yeah, you can find them in the Undertrouw. You can, I don't think you can search by where they're from, but it will tell you where people are from. So this is one of my family's senior Cornell. You can see there's people signing in Hebrew. So this is actually this one right here. This is not a Sephardic family right here. This is an Ashkenazi family. And you can tell because they aren't using last names. They're using patronymics. So Metzein Mutter, Belitia Linderts, and Hatje Jacobs, Van Amsterdam, Ud 28 Jaar, woont als von Hoffen, I always forget what Hoffman, Harvader, Jacob Samuel. So basically Jacob, son of Samuel's. And then if you can read Hebrew, you can kind of see Jacob Samuel's. So Ashkenazi and Sephardi, but then here we have Sephardi. David Azevedo in Amsterdam, 25 years old. Opda Gerechte. Yeah. All right. So, but yeah, this is yeah, that's what I meant. So, yeah. Okay. To cater to people who say it's racist. Interesting. Chimney black is modern invention. Originally Svarta Pete was a Moorish helper of Saint Nicholas. I didn't realize he was supposed to be a Moorish helper. Interesting. But not a slave. Not a slave. Okay. My fourth cousin have 1% Nigeria. But really sad that it's politically sensitive now. Yeah, that was from what my cousin said. He was like, it's very, very odd. He was obviously against the whole, I guess, canceling of Svarta Pete, as he put it. You will find people from Angola and other places. Yeah, I know, like here, I'll pull up one from my family if I can find it. My Espinoza family, which came from Zale. Is this the one? No, it's not the one. I don't think. Yeah, this is the one. So you can see Abram Spinoza Venzale. Is that the one? No, I don't know if that's the one. It could be. I don't know if that's Zale though. But Zale, Morocco. I took a quick look at the Genoplot page, and they're we use many calculators for admixture, and all their examples, I think, is on GEDmatch and IIRC, quite old and questionable. Yeah, that's what I figure. I mean, if they have DNA matches, cool, I'll check them out. But if it's just admixtures, I really don't care. I mean, it's just another site to pick your own ancestry. Svarta Pete used to be the bad guy who would put you in his jute black and take you to Spain and would hit you with his row. Interesting. I did not know that. Did not know that. My Heritage DNA update. What date in June? I don't think they've given an exact date. I think it's just a general sometime in June. So, yeah. Rebel with a Shih Tzu. What do you think about Genome Link and the matches? Does Genome Link do matches? I didn't think they did matches. I remember that was one of the sites that Matt Baker from Useful Charts did in one of his videos that I did a reaction to. I don't remember them having matches unless things have changed. But that'd be interesting. I don't know. Does Genome Link do matches? Genome Link matches? They do. Interesting. When did they start doing DNA matches? I wonder how good it is, because the big benefit with them would, I guess, to be, well, no, because they don't have people test through them. They're an upload only site. They're a third party site. So I don't know. Interesting. The thing that I would probably guess is that if you upload a Genome Link, my guess is you would probably end up getting a lot of the matches you already see at like GEDmatch and other places. The only big thing being that all the people that took their DNA off of GEDmatch because they didn't like the whole, investigative genealogy thing that happened. But that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know they had that. So yeah, no, I might have to upload some DNA results there. See what I find. See if it adds anything interesting, or maybe they have some sort of tool or something that makes them unique. They're definitely, I mean, the Ancestry composition, the way they have it presented, looks like straight up out of the other sites. Like it looks like 23andMe almost. It kind of looks like the way that Ancestry DNA does their side view. It's the way Svarta Pete is portrayed with an afro and lips made thicker with red lipstick, golden earrings, etc. that makes Svarta Pete a problem. Svarta Pete. Just because I feel like a lot of people are probably like, wait, what? So, Svarta Pete. Man bin Zach. So, all right. Sorry if I offended you. I just felt confused. Oh, what were your posts? Oh, you were posting about that one site, Genoplot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's the thing with ethnicity admixtures is it's just there's too much variability with it. So when you start adding in a lot of these third-party sites to try to get a better idea of stuff, in my mind, it actually, or in my opinion, it causes more confusion because then you're trying to figure out which site is better and which one, and so that's why I often say it becomes a game of choose your own ethnicity, because you just choose the one that you think works the best for you. So not offended. No, just I guess with a lot of these third-party sites, I get a lot of questions about them a lot of the time. And for me, it's like if they don't do DNA matches, I kind of just don't really worry about it. Rob, I never thought of a slave or a black man as a kid seeing Svarta Pete. Interesting. Rebel with a Shih Tzu recently had 2 featured matches. It said they are likely 4th or 5th cousins, but says I share 3,500 centimorgans with them, and yes, it's new. Wait, what? So you're sharing 3,500 centimorgans with them, which would be the equivalent of a parent or child, but they're likely 4th or 5th cousin. I'm very confused. That doesn't sound right, unless it's something, unless there's a little grammar thing going on here. Interesting. I don't know. All right. Well, I just realized that almost a half hour ago, I was like, yeah, I guess, I'll wrap this up in a few minutes. Yeah, it sounds like a bug. So I guess now I'll wrap it up. Very, very happy to have all of you here. Thank you so much for joining and chatting with me. Next week, we'll be on the main channel. Trying to figure out what I'll do on the main channel next week. Still haven't quite decided. Maybe I'll continue tracing celebrity trees, but I was actually trying to think of doing something different. I might do some more geography sorts of quizzes like I did before. I think that might be fun. But thank you everybody for joining today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday, or for those of you who have already are in the early mornings of Saturday, hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week. I'm out.